Howdy, gang, and welcome to yet another Terror Time Tea. I've got my sinus soother tea again because I've been feeling a little slightly under the weather, not too bad, where I can't do these streams and videos. But I've got my sinus soother tea again, and this is what I've got for my little treat today. And what these are, in case you haven't seen them, are the Coca Cola Oreos. And yeah, I cheated. I've already tried one a little bit earlier. But these, I believe, were the Oreos that Candace and Chris were telling me about. And they do taste a little bit like cola. They do have like a pop rock sort of candy in the cream, and you can feel a little fizzy feeling, which I guess is supposed to give you the cola, part of the cola experience. But they are pretty good. There is also a drink too, that Steve says it's supposed to taste like Oreos, but he said he heard from people that it didn't taste like Oreos really. But I'm going to give that a try too at some point. I also had a Ghost. Ghost has the energy drink. Ghost has a Welch's Grape now, and I tried that a little bit earlier, and it's pretty dang good as well. So we're going to go ahead here in just a second and get started with House by the Cemetery, and Night of the Demons. I'm going to talk a little bit about each one of them and give my ratings on them, and then get off of here. But I did want to let everybody know that there will be a Friday Foolish forthcoming today. However, me and Candace are going to do it at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. So be sure to check us out at that point in time. It'll be a few hours from now. We'll be on talking about horror comedies. Now, Candace is still feeling a little under the weather as well. Her voice could go out. So, hence, we're going to have Chris on there with us as well to help carry on the conversation in case Candace starts coughing or, gets where she can't talk. Um, so be sure to tune in for that, which that will be live at 7 p.m. Eastern time this evening. All right. What else have I got? I just wanted to remind you guys and gals that only on Sunday this weekend at 7 p.m. Eastern time will be a watch along for Dario Argento's Phenomena. Be sure to tune in to that coming up Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern time. And as we, move into October, which will be here shortly, be sure to tune in for all the Fulci programming you can handle and all the Fulci watch-alongs that you can handle for the month of October. It will be Fulci Fall. All right. So let's get started with these movies, shall we? Okay. So the first one, speaking of Fulci, Lucio Fulci's The House by the Cemetery, and that is a artist rendering of Catriona MacColl, who plays one of the main characters in this film. Catriona MacColl was also in City of the Living Dead, aka The Gates of Hell, and Fulci's The Beyond as well. Giovanni Frezza is on here as Bob, I believe. Anna Peroni, Sylvia Colatina. She's the little girl May who says, "Bob, don't go inside." So anybody that has seen this movie will remember her singing that to Bob several times in the film, right? So, what is House by the Cemetery about? Now, anybody that has watched a Fulci movie knows that, making a lot of sense in this films is not Fulci's forte, really. And Argento, even though he makes beautifully macabre films, with brilliant but grotesque set pieces. A lot of the plots don't make entirely 100% sense with Argento either, but the story really doesn't matter to me, especially when it comes to Fulci, because Fulci has some great effects in his films. He has some great effects people. All right. So, what House by the Cemetery essentially is about is a family. Uh, the mother is played by Catriona McCall. The father is played by Paolo Malco, who was also in the New York Ripper, another Fulci film, and Ania Pironi from Tenebrae. I believe plays like the babysitter, housekeeper. Um, and Carlo De Mejo is also in this from City of the Living Dead. And a Steve favorite, Dagmar Lassender from Hatchet for the Honeymoon, is also in this as a real estate agent who or either rents or sells the house. I think it's more like renting the house to the couple. Now, the husband is doing some research that was carried out by him and his partner, who ended up something unfortunate happened to him when he went to stay in this little town and do research as well. Okay, so we hear about Dr. Freudstein, um, who at one time did some pretty horrific human experiments, and it's kind of left behind a legacy that's pretty gruesome. And evidently, Dr. Freudstein's still hanging around. And as we go through the movie, and this might be a little bit of a spoiler, we find out that May, the little girl May, who keeps appearing to Bob, and she says, "Bob, don't go inside," many, many times. And she's warning Bob not to go inside the house. This house was her house. We find that out that May was the young daughter of Dr. Freudstein, and that an older woman, that a ghostly older woman that shows up with May at certain times, was Dr. Freudstein's wife. Okay. So essentially, like I said, the ghostly little girl May, is trying to warn Bob and his family uh, to don't go inside this house because horrible things are going to happen. So we start off this movie with a pretty gruesome and horrific murder where a girl and her boyfriend are hanging around the Freudstein house, and they really shouldn't be. And the next thing you know, they both end up dead, very gruesomely dead. The girl with a knife coming through the back of her head and out of her mouth, which is gruesome in and of itself. And we find out that it's Dr. Freudstein, and Dr. Freudstein's looking a little worse for wear these days, folks. And he's still, in the basement or the cellar or whatever you want to call it of his house. And every once in a while, he likes to come out and cause really, really bad things to happen, right? Now, again, does everything in this film make sense? No, I ain't gonna lie to you, it doesn't. But it makes enough sense that this was always one of my favorite Fulci films. Not my top Fulci film, but it's up there for me. Probably City of the Living Dead, aka The Gates of Hell. That is probably my favorite Fulci film, closely followed by The Beyond. And this one might be my third. That might be my top three Fulci films. Now, I'm not as fond of, things like the New York Ripper. The New York Ripper is okay, but it's a little more sleazy than I like. Um, House by the Cemetery, The Beyond, City of the Living Dead, they all have the right amount of gore and zombies and just a crazy enough storyline to just keep me going. Um, I'm not as fond of the ultra sleazy stuff, right? Um, and that includes New York Ripper. To some extent, it includes Don't Torture a Duckling, which has several child murders in there on top of, Barbara Boucher being naked most of the time. And I'm not putting down Barbara Boucher. Barbara Boucher looks very good and has a nice figure and all that. But for me, a straight female, just, I'm just not interested in that. And I'm not really interested in the sleaziness of New York Ripper. I like certain parts of New York Ripper, but also New York Ripper is a very mean spirited film. I think even Steve would agree with me on that. And also, The Devil's Honey. That's probably one of the sleaziest Fulci films. But if you like saxophone sex, and if you don't know what I mean by that, watch The Devil's Honey and you will understand. Or take a look at the poster for The Devil's Honey. And I think that will also give you a good idea. So, that is House by the Cemetery. Even though it's not my top, I can't talk today, top Fulci film, I still have to give this one 5 deadites out of 5 because on all levels it really, really works. Has a lot of gore effects. Is very entertaining. I enjoy it to the utmost level, and I would highly, highly recommend it. Um, Especially if you've not seen any Fulci stuff. However, I would probably suggest something like City of the Living Dead, aka The Gates of Hell, as a starting point if you've never seen any Fulci. Before you get into these more complicated ones, because for me, City of the Living Dead is pretty much a straight ahead, like zombie type of film where they're pulling people's brains out. Plus, you got this priest who hanged himself that every time he shows up, people's eyes start to bleed and they puke up their entire intestinal tract. And like I've said before, if you don't believe me, watch the film. But before I go on to Night of the Demons, I'm going to show y'all or tell y'all about these Oreo cookies, the Coca Cola one. Now, like the cookie part of it, I think tasted slightly like cola, not strongly like cola. It's like a mixture of cola and cookie, right? But as with most people, this is the part I like, the cream inside. And it tastes like, to me, it kind of tastes like vanilla Coke because you have this vanilla cream inside, but it also has a slight cola aspect to it. And it may take you a little bit, a few tries to get that. There's a slight fizzy, and that's like the pop rocks in there, the popping candy in there. And you kind of have to eat this slow. And it's more towards the middle of the cream before you get a sense of that. And I assume that's supposed to be the um, the fizziness of a soft drink. And I believe these have varying amounts of pop rocks in there. Because this one seems to be more fizzy and poppy than the other one I ate earlier. Okay. And in case you would want me to give a rating for these, I'm going to give these Coca Cola Oreos 4 deadites out of 5. They're pretty good. All right. So moving on. Ooh, these are really busy. To Kevin Tenney's Night of the Demons. This is the original Night of the Demons. This is a Halloween film. There's actually a Halloween party going on, put on by Angela at the neighborhood haunted house, Hull House. So it's Halloween night. Angela's throwing a party. Angela is kind of a little bit of an outcast and people make fun of her and stuff. But when she has this Halloween party, everybody goes, right? So, what is Hull House? Hull House is basically an empty funeral home. It used to be the home of a mass murder. Now, I find it odd. I didn't do this on purpose, but both of these movies that I'm talking about today, House by the Cemetery and Night of the Demons, have to do with spooky old houses where a mass murder occurred, right? Or a murder, I guess, has occurred. So the kids, the young people, decide to have a seance. Bad idea, right? And when they do, something evil breaks loose and starts inhabiting the party guests. Okay. So it starts with Linnea Quigley's character of Suzanne. She kisses Angela, um, and then it passes to Angela. Angela does some kind of creepy dance, and then starts attacking the guests in very gruesome fashion. I have always, since I was a kid, enjoyed Night of the Demons, right? And you're probably thinking, gosh, Dana, you watched this as a kid. Well, not a real young kid, but as a teenager growing up, I, as a young teen, I watched it and I remember loving it. Um, there, I remember, things like the Linnea Quigley, um, putting the lipstick into her boob and um, it reappearing and disappearing and all that stuff. Very good effect for that point in time. And I always love Linnea Quigley, and I think that she did a spectacular job in this, as she does many of the films that she's in. And like I said, some gruesome deaths abound in this one. Um, I love it. I don't really know which one I love more, this one or Witchboard. I like them both really well. Um, this one may give us a little more bang for our buck in the special effects department than Witchboard, but I could recommend them both. And not a really complicated plot to get in the way. This is one that you can just relax and watch and have a lot of fun with. And so I am going to go ahead and, oops, that was not what I meant to give it. I'm going to give this one 5 deadites out of 5 as well. This is going to be, as it always is, or has been the last several years, on my Halloween repertoire of movie watches. This is another one I would highly recommend, especially if you've never seen it. If it has been a while since you've seen it, come on, folks, drag that off your shelf and give it another try. Actually, I think I may have the 4K around of this somewhere that I'll probably pull back out to watch here very shortly. I was watching the 4K version of Halloween last night, but I got sleepy and hence fell asleep. But I do not want to stay on here too awfully long. I just wanted to talk a little bit about both of these movies. So I hope you have enjoyed this edition of Terror Time Tea. I hope you enjoyed me talking a little bit about the Coca Cola Oreos. If your store has them, pick some up. I think they're well worth uh, giving them a try. So I guess for now, me and Candace and Chris should be back at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So until then, I'm off like a dirty shirt. Again, this shirt is not dirty, but I am off like a dirty shirt. And before I go, I want to remind everybody, as I always do, to be kind to one another and blaze that trail. I'll see everybody next time.